Hello, welcome to the Daily English News program on Azərbaycan Televiziya. I'm İlham. Nizami Gəncəvi International Center's web discussion theme this Caucasus Regional Development and Perspective for Cooperation was held on May 20th. President of the Republic of Azerbaijan, İlham attended the event.
Mr. President, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, members and friends of the Nizami Ganjavi International Center, the NGIC. This is a great day for the NGIC. We are privileged that His Excellency President Aliyev has agreed to join us for a dialogue on his vision and aspirations for Azerbaijan, the region, and the world. Mr. President, 8 years ago, you sponsored the creation of an international center that would celebrate the great Azerbaijani poet Nizami Ganjavi. International by its membership and its leadership, with a board of trustees that would elect its own co-chair, design its own work program, and appoint its own Secretary General. You trusted us, Mr. President, and we hope that you have been satisfied that your trust is well placed. In the journey of these 8 years, we have had many activities that you invariably supported, and the international presence of the NGIC grew apace. The Global Baku Forum became the premier event regionally and gained the privileged position on the international calendar, with many of the most eminent people in the world keen to attend and participate. But beyond the forum, the NGIC held many other events addressing the Balkans and South Caucasus, as well as Europe. And then NGIC expanded its international outreach by adopting a strategy to build bridges to the US and the UN, with a special attention to our links to a rising China. Mr. President, in all we did, we were advancing the legacy of Nizami and the vision of Azerbaijan as a cultural link to a platform for reflecting on the challenges facing humanity. The NGIC gained a position of prominence as a center for learning, tolerance, dialogue, and understanding. And then came the pandemic, and we were obliged to cancel the Global Baku Forum of 2020. However, you will be pleased to know that we are committed to have a very successful Global Baku Forum 2021 later this year. Under the guidance of the Board of Trustees, our staff, headed by our Secretary General, Mr. Muradov, is working closely with Mr. Hekmat Hajiev and your protocol office on the design and implementation of the Global Baku Forum 2021 in order to ensure that it fits the calendar and rises to expectations. And with your permission, I will now turn the meeting over to my honorable co-chair, President Mayra Vicky Freiberger. Thank you.
Thank you.
Your Excellency, Mr. President, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, we have a great privilege to have today a dialogue between NGIC and the President of the Republic of Azerbaijan, His Excellency İlham Aliyev. We will start this meeting with a presentation by the President himself, which will then be followed by a question and answer period, which the President graciously has accepted to be available for. Mr. President, we're looking forward to your view of where Azerbaijan stands today in this very complicated world, and what your vision is for its future and how it fits into the rest of the world. Mr. President, we're looking forward to your words.
Thank you very much, Madam President, dear co-chairs of the Nizami Ganjavi International Center, Madam Vicky Freiberger and Mr. Sarıgeldin. First of all, I'd like to greet all the participants of today's discussion. I'd like to use this opportunity to express gratitude to the co-chairs and to members of Nizami Center for initiating this discussion, because I think it's very timely, and the topics which you propose, Southern Caucasus regional development and prospects for cooperation, I think it's now one of the important topics on the global agenda because there have been very radical changes in the Southern Caucasus recently, and of course the new situation needs new approaches. But first of all, I'd like to congratulate Nizami Gencevi International Center for its excellent performance during the time of pandemic, and the center adjusted itself very wisely to a new situation, and regardless the situation with the pandemic, continued its activity and continued in a new form. But as Mr. Sarageldin said, we hope to get together in Azerbaijan later this year to organize our regular Baku Global Forum. Also, during these 8 years of active performance, the center became one of the leading international institutions in the world, and its broad activity actually serves the cause of peace, cooperation, security, stability in the world, and members of the center are well-known, famous world politicians who run countries and international organizations for many years, so your experience really is a unique. So such a concentration of experience under one roof really is, I think, very unique in today's world. With respect to Azerbaijan's views on what happened and what is going to happen, of course, first of all, I'd like to say that the recent development in the region, Second Karabakh War, radically changed the situation. Therefore, there is a need for new approaches, the need for new agenda for South Caucasus, and I fully appreciate the topic of the discussion, regional development and perspective for cooperation, because that's what we really need. Due to the fact of occupation, which lasted almost 30 years, Azerbaijan openly declared its position that we will not cooperate with Armenia until the territories are liberated. And I think that Armenia itself now understands that they made a very big mistake because they lost time. If you look at today's situation in Armenia, we'll see that situation is much worse than when Armenia became an independent country, because today Armenia doesn't have army. It has been totally destroyed. It's in permanent political crisis for more than 6 months. There is a big degree of mistrust in society, mutual accusations, and some political leaders' rhetoric is beyond any acceptable framework. So they lost time. They were deprived from the initiatives of Azerbaijan with respect to energy and transportation development. And finally, they lost territories which they occupied and the territories which never belonged to them, neither by history nor by international law. But now, after the conflict is over, Nagorno-Karabakh conflict has been resolved primarily by Azerbaijan and then by a joint declaration of the 10th November last year. We need to look to the future. And despite 30 years of occupation and large-scale destruction and devastation on the liberated territories, Azerbaijan is ready to look to the future, to plan its future as a part of integrated region of Southern Caucasus. We hope that the time will come that we will really talk about active cooperation in the Southern Caucasus and integration. And we have already made very important proposals and initiatives, by the way, which reflected in the joint declaration of November 10, 2020, particularly with respect to opening of communications and opening a new transportation corridors. And I can tell you that the work has already started on implementation of this project, and Azerbaijan already allocated technical and financial resources for that. And when Zangezur corridor is opened, it will open new opportunities for all the countries of the region. Therefore, I'd like to say that Azerbaijan is open for cooperation, open for planning our common future, because we are neighbors, whether we like it or not. We have to live side by side, and we need to learn once again how to live side by side. It's not easy. Emotions are here, especially when Azerbaijani people visit liberated territories and see total destruction. You can imagine what kind of emotions they have. But the role of politicians is to defend their agenda and to explain that only through interaction we can provide sustainable development and peace and security in the region.
After the defeat in the Second Karabakh War, Armenia can deal with new realities developed in the region. Yerevan seeks assistance from CSTO partners who in turn are interested in expanding cooperation with Azerbaijan.
The situation developed in the region after the Second Karabakh War determines the transition of the development of the region to a new phase. Today, Armenia's position is hesitant. Yerevan either comes out with statements about the need to open communications or contradicts cooperation and calls for revenge. The statement of the acting Prime Minister of Armenia, Pashinyan, at recent government meetings that the world community does not accept the resolution of the Nagorno-Karabakh issue and is looking for mechanisms for a long-term settlement confirms it again, and reality coincides with the principled position of Azerbaijan. The Nagorno-Karabakh conflict has been resolved. Azerbaijan has resolved the conflict alone, both on the battlefield and then at the table. Victory on the battlefield forced the enemy to throw in the towel, surrender and sign an act of capitulation. The document signed on November 10th is an act of capitulation on the part of Armenia. There is no territorial unit called Nagorno-Karabakh in Azerbaijan. The conflict has been resolved, and I think that there is no point in returning to the issue, said President İlham Aliyev. Another reality is that Yerevan can't get the desired assistance from its traditional partners and is losing support in the region. Russia, the main pillar of the Collective Security Treaty Organization, which Armenia relies on, has been demonstrating neutrality for a long time and has been closely cooperating with Baku in opening communications. The second large state in the organization, Kazakhstan, also listens to Pashinyan's complaints without actually expressing support for Armenia. Another member of the organization, Belarus, is expanding cooperation with Azerbaijan in the military sphere and recognizes that the position of official Baku is a main regulatory factor in the region. We also welcome the agreements you have reached on the cessation of hostilities in the Nagorno-Karabakh zone. We are simply confident that under your wise leadership, this will become a good foundation for the further development of this region and the consolidation of peace in your land, said Minister of Defense of the Republic of Belarus, Viktor Khrenin. Armenia's attempts to start military cooperation with China or count on India's assistance instead of accepting reality are manifestations of Yerevan's hysterical attempts to find support. Despite everything, an irreversible process has begun in the region, and sooner or later, Yerevan will have to come to terms with it.
It is Armenia that violated Azerbaijan's internationally recognized borders, and now Azerbaijan is just restoring its internationally recognized borders. It's quite strange that in the past 30 years, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of India hasn't made an appeal for withdrawal of the occupying forces of Armenia from the Azerbaijani territories and is now speaking about the pulling back forces. Apparently, this latest statement was made without a proper thorough examination of various dimensions of this issue. Head of the press service of Azerbaijan's Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Leyla Abdullayeva, stated, quote, "We observe a dramatic rise in intolerance and xenophobia in Armenia. An incomprehensible act of vandalism was recently taken against the monument to such a world-known proponent of peace and tolerance as Mahatma Gandhi. Such trends of extremism are dangerous and they must be addressed immediately. Armenia must be encouraged to abandon toxic ideas of national supremacy and territorial expansion. Azerbaijan, in its turn, continues to be strongly committed to peace, security, regional development and cooperation on the basis of respect for sovereignty, territorial integrity and inviolability of internationally recognized borders." End of quote. The trilateral statement signed by the presidents of Russia, Azerbaijan and Prime Minister of Armenia on the cessation of hostilities during the Second Armenian-Azerbaijan Nagorno-Karabakh War opens up the opportunities for the comprehensive development of the South Caucasus, said Russian Prime Minister Mikhail Mishustin at the meeting with Azerbaijani Prime Minister Ali Asadov. Following the talks, the sides signed the documents on the development of cooperation in a number of areas.
The delegation led by the Azerbaijani Prime Minister Ali Asadov first visited and later reached the tomb of the unknown soldier near the Kremlin Wall in Moscow. Then a meeting between the Azerbaijan delegation and chairman of the Russian government, Mikhail Mishustin, took place. Welcoming Azerbaijan's Prime Minister Ali Asadov, chairman of the Russian government Mikhail Mishustin conveyed greetings and best wishes to President of Azerbaijan Ilham Aliyev on President of Russia Vladimir Putin's and his own behalf. Russian Prime Minister brought to the attention that the trade turnover is growing rapidly. Despite the pandemic, the trade turnover between the two countries in January to March this year increased by 3.5%. It was stressed that currently there are about 1,000 companies with the Russian capital operating in Azerbaijan. Mikhail Mishustin emphasized that the trilateral statement adopted by Russia, Azerbaijan and Armenia after the end of operations in Karabakh opens up opportunities for the integrated development of the region. I am sure that the opening of economic, transport and communication opportunities, the creation of new infrastructure routes, meets the interests of the South Caucasus countries, chairman of the Russian government said. Prime Minister Ali Asadov, in turn, conveyed greetings of President of Azerbaijan Ilham Aliyev. It was stressed that relations between Azerbaijan and Russia are at a high level thanks to the relations between the presidents of the two countries based on mutual trust. Azerbaijan is successfully developing the economic cooperation with more than 80 Russian entities. More than 230 intergovernmental and interministerial documents have been signed between our countries, and 6 roadmaps are being implemented. The Prime Minister of Azerbaijan noted that the President and the government of Azerbaijan highly appreciate the role of Russia during the 44-day war and support the implementation of the provisions of the trilateral agreement signed by the Presidents of Azerbaijan and Russia and the Prime Minister of Armenia. During the meeting, Ali Asadov invited his Russian counterpart to visit Azerbaijan. Following the talks, the parties signed the documents on the development of cooperation in the fields of communications and information technologies, veterinary medicines, customs, intellectual property, food security, and other spheres. Within the framework of the official visit, the delegation also got acquainted with conditions of the Azerbaijan Pavilion of the Exhibition of Achievements of the National Economy of Moscow after major restoration and repair works. The Azerbaijan delegation also visited the Plekhanov Russian University of Economics. Addressing the Academic Council of the university, Prime Minister Ali Asadov spoke about the essence and goals of economic reforms carried out by national leader Heydar Aliyev during independence, gave information on reforms implemented by President Ilham Aliyev in the market economy, basic principles and prospects of modern energy policy and investment climate.
On May 20th, French mass media representatives and a group of scientists visited Ganja. The delegation got acquainted with traces of crimes caused by missile strikes of Armenian armed forces on residential areas of Azerbaijan's second largest city of Ganja, far from front line. The guests were informed that occupying Armenian armed forces deliberately targeted the civilian population of Azerbaijan, violating the norms and principles of international law as well as the requirements of the humanitarian ceasefire agreed on the basis of their persistent requests. It was further emphasized that as a result of missile attacks to the city on October 11th and 17th, about 30 civilians were killed and more than 90 were injured. 437 more cases of coronavirus infections have been recorded in Azerbaijan. 893 people recovered after treatment and were released home. 14 people have died after testing positive for COVID-19. The overall confirmed cases in Azerbaijan have reached 331,477 with 318,502 recoveries and 4,828 deaths. The number of active infections is 8,147. The detected infection cases overall 3,425,183 tests have been conducted in Azerbaijan. The task force under the Cabinet of Ministers reported. That was all for the day. Thank you for being with us. Goodbye.